And we're back. Thanks, everyone, for staying and hanging out. With me, we have Karen Florschitz, the head of Connected Intelligence at Airbus's Defense and Space Unit. And then we have Rodrigo da Costa, Executive Director of the EU Agency for the Space Program. And today we're going to be focusing on Europe's space ambitions and how they are colliding with mounting security, sovereignty concerns, the debate around budgets, which we just heard from Magda, and strategic autonomy, and how we can develop homegrown space companies within Europe. So to start off with, I'd like to ask each of you what you see as the biggest risk currently facing your agency and your company. Rodrigo, let's start with you.
Yeah, it's a good question. Of course, there are several risks. I think what we see, and that if you want a satellite operator and a service provider of providing data from space, we clearly see increasing threats, for example, in the area of cybersecurity. And for us, it is very, very important to protect well our systems against those risks.
Karen, for you?
I think I will echo the cybersecurity part, because I think that is really something that can damage. You don't want anyone to take your satellite down or jam it, spoof it. I also think in Europe we need to probably be a bit more rigid with who's doing what, because we have to build up a supply chain. And if we only do a little bit in every country and have our own national companies, that might not do the trick to really have something sovereign and across Europe. So we probably have to be a bit more European together, spend the money wisely, and think that Timo Persson, I think, said it, or Mr. Kubelius, there is no defense without space. So space is extremely important, access to space.
You mentioned GPS spoofing, both of you did, as a really top concern that's been in the news quite a lot. There is, Rodrigo, where are we at with the Galileo system and the rolling out of the public regulated service? Is it ready to launch by the end of the year and be at the same standard as the US service that we have been using to date?
Sure. So first, starting with Galileo. Galileo today is fully operational. We've been providing services since end of 2016. We have a milestone coming up, so next year we'll commemorate 10 years of Galileo services. And this includes a number of them which are very important. Of course, the open service, the one that everyone is using when you're using your mobile phone, your in-car navigation, etc., etc. But there is more than that. We are providing a high-accuracy service. We are contributing to search and rescue. And since actually quite recently, since summer time, we have been providing a particular feature, which is a kind of a watermark in the signal. We call it navigation method authentication. It's a bit of a complicated name to basically say it is a watermark that allows users to verify that what they are receiving is really a Galileo signal. So Galileo is out there, and it's fully operational. We have, as the next upcoming milestone, to which we are working at accelerated pace, what we call the initial operational capability of the public regulated service. The public regulated service is special. It is a service that is designed for member states, for governmental authorities and government-authorized users in member states. And it is a service that provides an extra layer of robustness and an extra layer of resilience. So it will be crucial. It will be crucial and very important for the security users, the security communities across the Union. And here we are talking both of course, civil security, but also use by the armed forces of the member states. So this is certainly something that is very, very important, to which we are working right now. And as you said, very soon we'll be ready to also provide that one.
At the same level?
At the same level, yes. I mean, today, I will answer, not really. No, because today the open service of Galileo, let's start there. The open service Galileo is not provided at the same level, is better. The open service of Galileo, in terms of accuracy, so in terms of precision, is better than anything else that there is in the world. So it's better than GPS, it's better than GLONASS, it's better than Beidou. And these are numbers that technicians can verify by measuring the data, by measuring the signals. So Galileo is the best GNSS, is providing the best GNSS positioning in the world. We aim with PRS at similar levels, obviously.
Obviously. Karen, I want to turn to you. Another proposal is looking at radio frequency interfering monitoring and having to your point, a centralized point for that to detect disruptions. From a private company perspective, how does that work between the private and the public sector? And is there a country that has managed to successfully implement such a system in a good way that Europe could replicate?
Very good question. I think looking from a company point of view, or from the private business point of view, looking at the different countries, I think if we look at Europe, you know that Airbus, for example, has four countries that actually are our home countries. This is Germany, France, UK, and Spain. And of course, we take the requirements of these countries into consideration when we do our products, when we look at what do the company or the countries really want for their national security, for sovereignty. And that needs to be also a bit more agnostic, because if you do something in one country and they cannot communicate or exchange data with another country, that is not the right system. So of course we're looking at that, and we're looking at the different technologies to also see what can we do in the area of optical, but also radar, especially radar. And I think there are some countries, like for example Spain has just launched the PAS-2 one for radar to see that is state of the art what they want to do there. And I think it's something that I would really watch closely, I think, going forward, because I think we need not just optical one, not telecommunication, we need the mix together with radar. Otherwise, there will not be so much that data coming down. And our armed forces also need the data from the space to get situational awareness, to have a clear picture of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. I want to turn to the Space Act. The Commission wants harmonization across the bloc. The member states say that this is an issue of national sovereignty, that the power should remain at the capitals. The Council now is turning to the legal service. Rodrigo, should this stay with the capitals? What would be the implications, and how would Europe then further develop space and its capabilities without having the actual Space Act?
Okay, so as you said, the Commission has made a proposal for a Space Act. It came out back in June, and obviously, as the EU agency working very closely with the Commission, I will not comment any of details, except to say that obviously, as an agency to which the Commission proposes to assign some of the tasks for the implementation of Space Act, we are reading it very carefully. We are also preparing, of course, without prejudice to all the legislative process that is just started, the exchanges in Council, the exchanges in Parliament, the trialogues that will come, and we will see then what will be the landing area when it comes to the Space Act. For us, of course, crucial today is to prepare to whatever may come, and this is the work that we are doing. Then when it comes to the content, I think clearly it tackles the key elements, the key notions, the very important notions are in there in terms of security, in terms of safety, in terms of sustainability, so the elements are there captured, and then, of course, where the proposal will end, how will the exchanges end, we will wait and see.
Karen, I want to turn to you. You already mentioned a bit about the UK and Spain. Obviously, each capital has its own priorities, let's say. How do you view these? Where do the strategies diverge across the capitals?
Very good question. Well, I think if you look from an MOD point of view, they all want to, what we call in military term, multi-domain operations. You want to have situational awareness across all the 5 domains, which is land, sea, space, air, and cybersecurity. And especially on the space one, the national the MOD want to have their probably own robust, hardened satellites, because they don't want the spoofing, the jamming. They don't want to have anyone listening in, and they want to have clear, secure communications and links. So there are, for example, if you mentioned 2 countries, they have specific requirements to actually harden the satellites, to make them robust, to have cybersecurity built in, so that nothing is happening there. But it's different kind of satellites. If I'm talking about, for the MOD, it's mostly telecommunication. It is not so much optical one or radar, but especially the communication ones are really, they differ from country to country. They have their own, sovereign requirements. And us as an industry, we have to, of course, to be able to fulfill their requirements. I cannot just take one satellite and say, hey, I just change a little bit and that's yours then. They have very specific from the mirror to the way, also the orbit, in which orbit is it placed. So there are a lot of differences. But I would say even there, most of them just do not do just one. They have 2 or 3. They don't have a constellation, but most of them at least have like 3, and then they continue, because also an aging satellite at some point there needs to be a new one coming up. And I think that is a case where you see differences between the countries. Some are already thinking ahead, and some are already asking us to build a satellite or 3 satellites that we do, but they only launch 1, and you have to keep the other 2, kind of like in the vacuum, sleeping in a clean room, for maybe 20 years down the road to be launched. So things like that we also need to take into consideration.
It's a good segue for us to go to competition. This is a competition summit, after all. Starlink, a US company owned, operated by Mr. Elon Musk, our favorite guy of the day. It has massive capacity so far that the EU has not yet been able to replicate. What are the biggest hurdles, and what do you propose to help get past those? Federico, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I can start. I mean, the proposal of the Union is very clear. It's with secure connectivity, working on IRIS², and the work is advancing. The project is moving forward at an accelerated pace, and it will bring the solution to the needs of Europe in terms of secure connectivity for the member states, for the Union institutions, etc. But we are not waiting for what will come with IRIS², because IRIS² is in its process. We will not be waiting for it to come. We are already working right now, and here in particular, I highlight the effort that we are doing in bringing the GovSatcom capabilities to the European member states and to the stakeholders. We are very close to the start of what we call the initial services. GovSatcom is very interesting because it's based on a pooling and sharing mechanism. So we have European member states that have satellite communication capabilities. Some of those member states are willing to make them available to other member states, also to the EU member states at large. And GovSatcom is actually the program that is matching that. It is also built in an evolutive perspective, because it will provide, again, service to the governmental users, first using the pooling and sharing capability, and then when IRIS will achieve the operational phase, we'll connect as well to IRIS. And this will offer a seamless transition from the pooling and sharing phase to the connection with IRIS phase.
Karen, do you have anything to add to that?
I think it's exactly right what Rodrigo just said. IRIS², there is one, the GovSatcom was one, and I think there are also some of the countries now thinking of maybe a bit more than just 3 satellites, so a little bit of kind of a constellation in the LEO space. So, IRIS² will be LEO, MEO, and maybe connecting also to GEO. So I think there is also, from a European point of view, something available. And if you're looking at an operator, French operator, Eutelsat, they also have quite a lot of satellites, not the amount that Elon Musk has, but they have about 700 in the LEO. They're not marketing it as strongly as Elon Musk is doing it, but I think there's also an alternative, not covering everything, but I think we're getting there.
The war in Ukraine and US relations, Musk going into the administration, sort of highlights the pitfalls of relying on a private, foreignly owned company. How should Europe's sector be developed in terms of private and public partnerships? How should the money be flowing? How should these be organized? From your perspective, Karen, what would you recommend?
Well, I think public-private partnerships are one of the things that have worked in the past. Nevertheless, I think we need to do it more stringently. And what I mentioned also before, I think the supply chain. We have a lot of very good supply chains all over Europe, but we need to also give them a bit more. If I look to some of the smaller member states, they have good capabilities, they have the supply for a certain capability, but we're not using that. And if they only get 1 or 2 orders, that might not help them to survive. So I think also there we need to look at across the member states who can do what really well, and then develop them, keep them in the boat, because I think it's good to have a diverse also supply chain going forward.
When I move to the IRIS2 system, what is the status of it? Is it finding enough customers to become a threat to Starlink? What do we go do on that?
What is this threat? I mean, Iris Square, it's right, as I said before, right, right now in the development phase. When it comes to the, let's say, institutional part or the public part, is to serve very clear user needs from the governmental side. The development is ongoing. You don't build such a system, and a complex system, as Karen said before, different orbits, different satellites. You don't build it from one day to the other. And it is progressing, and it is and it is moving forward. And again, the immediate response has to be GovSatcom. This is the bridging step, and we'll go from there.
Is there a target date for when it will go online?
On Iris Square, yes, of course. The industry is working hard to bring it online by the end of the decade, and this is the target.
Going back to the broader picture and lessening reliance on the US, kind of a through line of this conversation, what is the importance of the IRIS2 in terms of helping Europe achieve that goal and in its overall military communication needs? Karen, maybe you can take this one.
I think, as I mentioned before, I think it is important to also rely on our own capabilities and to build them up. I think we have been relying quite a lot on our good partners in the US, and I think we clearly got the signal that we also need to do a bit more in Europe to invest more into our sovereignty. And I think the IRIS is one of the parts, but some of the other initiatives that some of the countries are doing is going exactly in that, that path. And at the NATO summit, you know, every country of the NATO committed to the 5%, which is 3.5% in defense and 1.5% in critical infrastructure. Because I think it needs to be a seamless connectivity. You also need to look at critical infrastructure that probably we have not looked at so much. It's the streets, it's the bridges. Are we really able to protect if a harbor is attacked? Do that. So I think it is, IRIS is one part, you know, but there's more where I think Europe is currently looking at what can we do together. How can we do that? And if you look at some of the smaller member states, they cannot afford to have their own satellite in space. So just getting some frequency band, maybe from IRIS, maybe from GovSatcom, will support them, will help them. And I think we are, you know, at least I think most people heard the wake-up call, and now we have to act on it.
Mm. But to your point, there are a lot of competing priorities, things that need to be upgraded. Critical infrastructure is one, satellites is another. How should member states go about prioritizing these? And in terms of also timing, are there ones in which we have a little bit more time, and ones that are far more critical that we really need to be paying more attention to?
Well, if you're asking someone from space, certainly the priority should be space. That is an obvious. No, but space plays an important role because space can also support our security, our resilience, our preparedness in many other areas that go beyond the pure, let's say, application on immediate sovereignty. I will cite you an example. Space and space data, space services play a role, for example, in food security. They play a role, for example, in energy security. So you see that there is a very large impact of space all across the different sectors, all across the board. And in addition to that, space data, space services, they are very much needed, and we see a big demand by the security users, by the security communities, both, as I mentioned, both the civil and the military ones. So certainly, by investing in space, by investing in space data, in space services, we are also indirectly, if you want, investing in other areas of the society where resilience, preparedness are a very important factor.
Karen, do you have anything to add to that?
I agree 100%. I would like to add the EarthCare one. There was a satellite launch called EarthCare, and it's it's measuring the aerosols and the clouds to see where there might be, flooding coming like we have now in Valencia. And I think that's also something that's adding, where space really helps us to understand what's going on and where can we maybe, because we took pictures, we get data, we take radar pictures, we know there's a dam that is weakened and that might break, and there's a town underneath it, and maybe we need to quickly evacuate the people. So I think space is one of the core parts. Nevertheless, I would also go into the infrastructure, because some of that, what helps if there is I know Spain is a little further off, but Germany is closer to it. If there's a tank coming and the bridge is breaking down, that also doesn't help. So I think there are, choices to be made, and that is nationally. Nevertheless, there are some guidance given by NATO, but also by the European Union to say what we really need first. And I think space is definitely something that I also would put high on my list.
Do you think the member states are successfully heeding that call? And are their priorities aligned with what NATO, with what the military community and the Commission is saying?
I would phrase it differently. I think depending on, and we recently saw that, all the drones flying over some of the member states. All the states that have seen that have sightings of drones, are way more alerted than the ones that hadn't. So I think the urgency is if you have experienced something like that. And I think the wake-up call is probably understood. Nevertheless, depending on how close you might be and how close you might feel to there could be something happening, that also depends on where you actually put your money. So I would say any of the Scandinavian ones or the Baltic ones, Poland, they're way closer to whatever could happen, or if there might be something happening, than maybe Spain or even France and Germany.
We're coming up on time, but I want to ask each of you kind of an out-of-the-box question. What is keeping you up at night? Is there something in your agency or in your company that people are not talking about and they really should be keeping an eye on? Rodrigo,
it's a
anything
good
up to mind?
question. Actually, and it's a good circle, because we come back to the beginning of the conversation. It's not that people are not talking about it. Everyone is talking about the importance of cybersecurity. But I want to close with that, because that remains really a key focus, a major focus. We should not forget that when we look at space systems, by the way, like many other systems, we also look at very large IT systems. Very large IT systems that are crucial for our daily life. I mean, it's the way we get our weather forecast, it's the way how we communicate, it's the way how we navigate. And we need to make sure that we secure them and we protect them. So certainly, it's something that is constantly in my mind.
Karen?
I would completely agree. I go in the same direction. I think the more we are digitalizing, the more we are, exposing ourselves to cybersecurity, to fake news, to, to be attacked. So I think that is one of the core things that also in my company, very high on the agenda, because it can be physical, it can be electronically. So all the security part is really high on the list.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for staying with us in this really insightful conversation about where we're going. Up next, we have Central Banker Service reporter Ben Munster, and he's going to have our final discussion of the summit on building a next generation workforce. So if you all can stay seated, thank you. Thanks.